Chapter 17, the 11th day. Corey had been staying at Dorian's house for over a week now. 11 days to be exact. At the news that Dorian's mom had been enrolled in a 90-day rehabilitation program, Dorian began making her bedroom into his, turning it into a place where he didn't have to feel like an intruder. Corey told him a million times to just sleep in his own room, but he wanted to make his guest as comfortable as possible. One wrong move and Corey could decide to return to his abusive father. Dorian wasn't going to let that happen. Corey still hadn't been home, not even to collect his stuff. He was living in Dorian's clothes, using his things, eating his food, living life alongside him. Both boys loved it, but as always, neither said a word. They were living in bliss and frustration. Both wanted more, neither were brave enough to ask for it. Corey was also smiling more since he'd been staying with Dorian. It wasn't constant or even regular, but it happened. It was hardly a rare occasion anymore, not like the first couple of times. Dorian was making breakfast one Saturday morning, on the 11th day of Corey's stay, when things changed. Corey was propped up on the counter, a mug of steaming coffee held between his small hands. He was wearing a pair of boxers and one of Dorian's jumpers. It was so loose on him, it slipped to expose his naked collarbones and smooth shoulders, but that was nothing compared to what Dorian was wearing, which was practically nothing. Since his mom had left, he'd fallen into the habit of lounging around the house shirtless and semi-naked. All he wore right now were his boxers, and it was driving Corey crazy. His taut muscles and toned abs were on full display, his bulging biceps twitching as he flipped the pancakes in the pan. His silky black hair dipped into his dark eyes as swear words continuously fell from between his soft lips when he poured too much batter into the pan. The scene was so domesticated and tame, and yet, it was captured in this very moment that the dynamic between the boys shifted forever. "You're burning it," Corey pointed out, placing his mug onto the counter beside him. Dorian glanced up, his eyes locking with Corey's beautiful green ones. And he kissed him. Just like that. Corey was frozen in place as Dorian's lips connected with his, the very lips he had been thinking about for weeks now. It was light and gentle, barely a graze. Dorian was hesitant before Corey wrapped his arms around the back of his neck and pulled him in. Dorian sighed in content, his fingers knotting into Corey's frizzy blonde locks, all his senses heightening at the feeling. Corey's lips were as soft as butter and as warm as the coffee on his breath. He was in total bliss. He wasn't thinking about what would happen when the kiss ended, what they would say to each other, how they would act. Because right now, in this moment, on Saturday morning of the 11th day, Corey's lips were all that mattered. It was a bundle of overwhelming emotions, merging and fusing, their desires amalgamating and their lust growing. Corey's brain was a fog of blurry cravings, and all he could really focus on were Dorian's lips. His kiss, so rough yet so gentle, so hard yet so soft. So fucking amazing and so utterly terrifying. Dorian was stood between the smaller boy's legs, tasting as much of him as he could before the beautiful moment came crashing down. His fingers were on Corey's scalding skin, his pulse throbbing erratically beneath the surface. Before they knew it, the kiss had become rough and desperate and greedy. They kissed each other with everything they had, pouring their heart and soul into it. Dorian's tongue was exploring Corey's sweet mouth, his hands drifting to trace his hip bones sensually. Corey let out a light moan as Dorian's sharp teeth clamped down on his lower lip playfully, pulling a gasp from the boy. At the sound of Corey's wordless approval, Dorian only grew hungrier. It was the smell of smoke and the sound of sizzling which finally forced the boys apart. Chapter 18, Rex and Luna. When the door swung open, Corey held his breath. He'd been expecting his best friend to answer, not the best friend of the boy he'd just kissed. "Hey, Ty," he murmured awkwardly. "Is Velvet there?" Ty smiled at him warmly. "Hi Corey, she's just feeding Rex." He ushered him inside and shut the door as softly as possible. "Are you okay?" Corey didn't look directly at him but kept his eyes trained on the floor. "Yeah." He lied plainly, walking straight past him and heading down the familiar hallway. Velvet was sitting cross-legged on the tiled kitchen floor, her dark hair pulled into a scruffy bun as her glasses hung off the end of her nose. She usually wore contact lenses, but seeing as it was barely past 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning, she clearly hadn't reached that part of her morning routine yet. She was still in her pajamas as her squirming dog, Luna, fidgeted in her lap, being held back by her collar so she didn't leap on the other animal. The fluffy ginger cat, Rex, was peacefully eating in the corner, getting eyed up by the hungry dog awaiting her breakfast. When Corey entered, the young beagle broke free from Velvet's grip and bounded over to greet him, her floppy ears bouncing happily. "Corey?" Velvet asked in surprise as he sunk down onto the floor to reach her level, letting Luna lick his face and wag her tail excitedly. "What are you doing here?" Corey glanced up at Ty skeptically, then back at his friend. "I need to talk to you, I'm all alone." "Ty, can you give us a few minutes?" she asked politely. He smiled understandingly. "Sure. I'll be in your room." He paused halfway out the door as the Harry Potter theme song began playing quietly from his trousers. Plucking the phone from his pocket, his ringtone still echoing throughout the room, Ty glanced down at the screen and his eyebrows creased into a frown. "Who is it?" Velvet asked curiously. "Dorian," he murmured distractedly. "That's weird, he never calls me." He held the phone to his ear, leaving the room and shutting the door behind him. Corey could faintly hear the sound of Ty's voice disappear up the stairs until the only sound came from the ginger cat eating his food in the corner. Corey could only imagine how that conversation was going, and it made him queasy and nauseous. "Are you all right, hun?" Velvet asked worriedly. "Did something happen?" Corey distracted himself by playing with Luna's velvety ears, running his fingers through her short fur, feeling her warm tongue lap at his hand affectionately. "Dorian kissed me." Her baby blue eyes lit up, a smile stretching across her lips. "Corey, Stop smiling. Why are you smiling? Isn't this good?" Her face fell and her brows twitched into a frown. "Did you not want him to kiss you?"
No, I guess I did.
"I don't know. I never really thought about it. Do you like him?" "Yeah," he sighed. Rex finished his food and trotted over to where Velvet was sitting, crawling into her lap with a chorus of meows, purring for attention. "I'm confused. You like him and you wanted him to kiss you, but now you're upset that he did?" It sounded ridiculous when Velvet said it aloud, but something was still holding him back. "I know it's stupid," he agreed. "It just feels like he's fucking with me. Like he's making a point of how someone like him would never fall for someone like me." "Hun, this is Dorian Price we're talking about. He's the sweetest guy in school. He would never do that." Velvet tried to reason with him. "Plus, I've seen the way he looks at you. He's totally obsessed." "Really?" Corey asked in surprise. "He's always watching you like he's hungry, and then when you catch his eye, he blushes." She explained. "Apparently he talks about you all the time, according to Ty. Honestly, I thought it would have happened sooner. I had a bet on it and everything." "Why you put a bet on this?" She smiled guiltily. "It was just a fun thing me and Ty were doing. But now I'm down 10 quid, so thanks for that." "Velvet." He groaned internally. Chapter 19, Remembered with Love. Sheets crumpled beneath the pair of panting bodies, tangled up in each other's warmth. Breath mingling, limbs twisting, eyes glinting with hunger. Sweat clung to skin and clothes lay discarded on the floor. Gentle fingers wound together, lips joined in soft passion, hair splayed out across the bed. With one last moan, the couple parted, laying as a tangle of limbs, their chests rising and falling. "I thought we were gonna try it without a condom this time." Micah was curled up at his boyfriend's side, his head resting on his bare chest, his hair tickling Bo's chin. Bo sighed. "Babe, I don't think that's a good idea. We're both clean, we've been tested." He argued. "What's stopping you? I want us to be safe." He countered. "Is there someone else?" Micah asked unexpectedly, pulling himself out of Bo's grip. "What is it, Bo? I'm not sure your side hoe is clean." Bo rolled his eyes in exasperation. "You've got to be kidding me, Micah." He drawled heavily. "I would never cheat on you. You're always sneaking around, hiding stuff from Maya. Because anything I say nowadays sets you off. You're starting an argument over nothing, over wearing a condom. Because I think you're cheating on me. You used to be the biggest fuckboy of Hilford, why wouldn't I be worried? Because I wouldn't do that, I'm not a prick. Then stop acting like one." Micah pushed himself out of Bo's bed and started getting dressed, pulling on his ripped jeans and woolly hat. Bo heaved an agitated sigh. "For fuck's sake, Micah, come back to bed." "No." The younger boy snapped, grabbing Bo's leather jacket that was draped over the back of the chair. He turned to his boyfriend with a glare, tugging the jacket on. "And don't say I'm paranoid. You're so fucking bipolar sometimes, Are you serious?" Micah rose his brows threateningly. "Did you seriously just play the bipolar card? Wow. You're an asshole." "Micah, relax, I didn't mean it like a. I'm leaving. You can invite your fuck buddy over now." He spat bitterly. Bo hastily pulled on a pair of boxers and leapt out of bed, grabbing Micah's arm before he could leave. Are you even listening to yourself right now? You're the one who flirts with every guy you see. Yeah, but I never actually do anything with them. Neither do I. Bo laughed incredulously at the situation, tucking his hair in frustration. Fuck you, Sullivan. He turned around to reach for the doorknob, but Bo caught him once more. Where are you going? To see my grandparents. He yanked his arm out of his boyfriend's grip and took off. The silent roads were almost peaceful, the sound of trains rattling along the tracks blurring into the background of his mind. The air was fresh and crisp, the chill biting at his exposed flesh as he made his way to the graveyard. He fished out a packet of cigarettes from the pocket of Bo's leather jacket and lit one impatiently. When the smoke filled up his burning lungs, his eyes fell shut in satisfaction, blowing it out with ease, feeling his insides tingle with the sensation. As soon as he entered the graveyard, he felt peace settle over his soul. It always had that effect on him. Like a pocket of solitude, a place where no living soul resided. Because dead people were quiet and calm and their presence relaxed Micah. The silence was louder in the cemetery, so loud it almost deafened him. But he just kept walking, the dead autumn leaves crunching beneath his boots. Tombstones stood erect in rows, some new and shiny, some crumbling and fading away to dust. The decay of the grave soothed him, reminded him of the physical human condition. Everyone would die and their bodies would rot. Humans were nothing. Our lives were just a glimpse of happiness in an eternal world where the only thing that never ceases to exist is nature. Some of the graves were decorated with fresh flowers or little plant plots, sprouting life among so many dead souls. Others were neglected and left tea.